And I've had an opportunity several times to share with Michael. I'm always so amazed at his depth of understanding and perception of spiritual things and experiences in his own life that he's had that he shares with me. I'm sometimes really amazed. I'm so happy he's speaking to us today. Let's welcome up Michael Sheehan.
Hi, everybody. Hi. It's very humbling to be asked to speak, and I'm honored by the Women's Federation for World Peace, and happy to be with you here celebrating International World Peace Day. I was told that our theme is caring for the earth together, and I'd like to focus on the togetherness, because I think if we do not have the togetherness, that our efforts to care for the earth will be much more difficult, if not impossible. So to me, the prerequisite is coming together. But this is something that I would say probably most people for most of human history have wanted, and yet here we are today, still trying to find our way to come together. So I'd like to offer what I hope will be a bit of insight into maybe what we've been missing and what needs to be done in order to truly bring people together. And it has to do with what the ancients called practicing the presence. Being consciously aware of the presence of God in your life from moment to moment. And I'd like to tell you a story about how I practiced the presence in one instance to give you a sense of what I'm really talking about. So when I was young, I was bitten by a dog. It wasn't very serious, but it gave me a fear of dogs. And throughout my early life, I was very afraid of dogs. I didn't have a dog. I didn't want to be around dogs. If somebody else had a dog, I'd be really nervous. And then I think it was in my mid-20s, in the midst of my spiritual studies, I was living in a place where I would take a long walk every day, and there were no sidewalks, and a lot of big yards with big dogs. And so I would walk down the middle of the road and have an image in my mind of a dog coming up and biting my hand and blood coming out and really feeling fear. But I wanted to take my long walk. But in my spiritual studies, I found a commentary on the Bible that said, perfect love casts out fear. So I thought, okay, here's a spiritual teaching that can help me. And so I would go on my walk and say to myself inwardly, just over and over, I'm holding the presence of love. I'm holding the presence of love. So I was consciously choosing to hold the presence of love. And this is a great power that we as human beings have. We can choose the presence we're going to entertain. And to put that in a little bit of context, the ancients talked about earth, air, fire, and water, the four elements. And it relates to four levels of our own being. We have our physical level, but we also have an emotional level, and we have a mental level, and we have a spiritual level. And your emotions, are where your feelings are, and the mental level is where your thoughts are, where you're thinking. The spiritual level is presence. It's the presence you're entertaining, and we can choose the presence we're going to entertain. So here I was on my walk, saying I'm holding the presence of love, I'm holding the presence of love, and the dogs would come out, and I felt the fear, but it had nowhere to grip, nowhere to grab me. It couldn't get me because I was filling myself with love. So I felt the fear, and I felt it rush out. And I had to do this day after day, being very consistent about mindfully, consciously holding the presence of love. And after about 3 weeks or so, I didn't even feel the fear anymore. I felt safe. I didn't have that image of being bitten. Perfect love had cast out fear. And part of this teaching is that, the darkness, you can't fight the darkness by trying to push it away. You can't say, go away, fear, because then your attention's on fear. You keep your attention on love, and it's like lighting a candle in the darkness. So it's the power of the love. So I thought, at this point, not feeling the fear anymore, that I had overcome my fear of dogs. And then about a week later, I was out on my walk, feeling very confident, and I heard this bark that sounded like you could hear it for miles. And I turned, and there was this huge dog I'd never seen before. He was racing at me, and he had intelligent eyes that looked like they'd killed before, and they were going to kill again. And he was foaming at the mouth. And so I stood there saying, I'm holding the presence of love, and I could feel the love, like waves coming out from me. Good reflexes. And so I'm standing there feeling the love like waves, and this dog comes racing up, and it was like he raced at me like a hot knife cutting through butter, just through those waves of love. And he bit my hand. And he had no teeth. And he ran away whimpering with his tail between his legs. So, you may have heard it said that if you face your fear, you find it has no power. But if you run from your fear, you run forever. But the key point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that it was the presence of love that pushed out the fear and protected me. I had also read in this commentary on the Bible about perfect love casts out fear, and the presence of love will protect you. And so I felt safe. So that's an example of practicing the presence. And the reason why I think that is so important for us coming together is because if we're holding the presence of criticism or judgment or guilt or anything else, we're not holding the presence of love. If what separates people is the judging, and Jesus said, judge not. He didn't give any exemptions to that. Don't judge anyone. And that means don't say, oh, this one's good and that one's bad. Because, again, as Jesus said, the sun shines its warmth on everyone and doesn't ask, do they deserve it? Because it's the sun's nature to shine. So when I think about love, I think it's not that I'm trying to love somebody, but I'm wanting to choose to hold the presence of love, which is holding the presence of God, and let that love shine on everyone without judging, without criticizing, without deciding who should get it and who shouldn't. And I believe that if this practice were to be widespread, then people would be able to come together, because we wouldn't be judging each other. There would just be that loving kindness towards everyone. And I think a key point in understanding this is that love has the power to transform people. We don't want to be scatterers, we want to be gatherers. And if we allow the power of love to transform anything unlike itself, that's how we're going to do that. You know that Jesus said, turn the other cheek. If someone does something bad to you, do something good for them. I don't think he was telling us we need to be doormats. I think he was telling us that if we can hold the presence of love, if that person is misbehaving, that love is going to transform that other person. Maybe not immediately, maybe immediately. So for me, caring for the earth together requires or depends on us really holding the presence of love, the presence of God, making that choice. And to make it even more clear, I believe that whatever presence we choose to entertain, that is an act of worship, that we are worshiping that presence. If you choose to entertain the presence of love or peace or truth or any of these divine qualities, that is worshiping God. If you've got hardness of heart and judgment towards others, and you go into a church and say, praise God, I don't believe that's worshiping God. I think that the actual act of worship is the choosing of the presence you're going to entertain. And if that's the case, then if we're entertaining judgment or criticism or self-criticism or guilt or fear, if we're entertaining any presence other than the presence of love or the presence of God, we're worshiping a false God. We're breaking the first commandment. The very first commandment, hold the presence of love. Worship God. Hold the presence of love, and everything else will work out. So that's my message for today. And I hope it finds receptivity in you. And I'm certainly not claiming to be perfect at doing this, but it's a light that guides me. And I try to remember to hold the presence of love no matter what the situation. And it doesn't mean you won't feel other things. I've been in difficult situations where I've been hurt, where I've been angry, but holding the presence of love, I was still able to experience those human emotions, but not let them take over me, not let them grip me and then make me act according to what their desire, I guess you would say, would be. Hold the presence of love, be human, feel what you feel, but always act from the presence of love. I think that's it. So I was going to open with a prayer, and I forgot. So I'd like to close with one. There is a place of pure peace at the center of my being. Resting there is the most powerful thing that I can do for myself and my loved ones, my community and my world. Just for now, I can release my concerns and be fully present as I nourish my spirit by holding the presence of love, the presence of peace, the presence of truth, consciously throughout my day. Amen and Ashu.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that sermon, that message on the presence of love and in the context of taking care of the earth and gathering people together. These are really important things, I feel. I feel a sense of liberation and freedom from Michael's sermon. Do you? Yeah. I feel like I have a way now to practice overcoming fears and things that are negative, that sometimes they creep in. You don't notice it sometimes, right? And then suddenly you do. So thank you so much for that, Michael.